The rain pounded the pavement, a cold, relentless drumbeat that matched the thudding of Eli's heart as he stood shivering outside his childhood home in suburban Ohio. At 14, with nothing but a backpack and a bruised spirit, he heard his father's final words echo. "No son of mine will be a disgrace." Kicked out for being gay, Eli faced a world that felt as unforgiving as the storm soaking through his thin jacket. He stumbled through the dark, the weight of rejection heavier than the rain. The small town of Willow Creek, with its picket fences and whispered judgments, offered no refuge. His mother's tear-streaked face at the window haunted him. She'd said nothing, frozen by his father's rage. Eli's only crime was honesty, a confession of who he was, sparked by a fleeting crush on a boy in his class. That truth had cost him everything. By morning, Eli found himself at the bus station, clutching a crumpled $20 bill he'd saved from mowing lawns. The ticket to Chicago was a gamble, but staying wasn't an option. The city loomed in his mind, a place of possibility where maybe, just maybe, he could be himself. As the bus pulled away, he pressed his forehead against the window, watching Willow Creek fade. He vowed to survive, to prove his father wrong. Chicago's streets were a shock. The noise, the crowds, the sheer vastness swallowed him whole. Eli slept in shelters when he could, on park benches when he couldn't. Hunger became a constant companion, but so did resilience. He found a drop-in center for homeless youth, a cramped building with flickering lights and kind-eyed volunteers. There, he met Sarah, a social worker who saw past his guarded exterior. "You're stronger than you know," she told him, handing him a warm meal and a pamphlet for a youth program. The program became his lifeline. Eli enrolled in night classes, earning his GED while working odd jobs, washing dishes, sweeping floors. Every dollar saved was a step toward stability. But the nights were hardest when memories of his father's voice crept in, sharp as broken glass. Disgrace. Failure. Eli pushed them down, focusing on the future. He wasn't just surviving. He was building something. At 17, Eli landed a job at a small bookstore in Wicker Park. The owner, a gruff but kind man named Mr. Callahan, didn't care about Eli's past, only his work ethic. The store became a sanctuary, its shelves lined with stories of people who overcame, who loved fiercely despite the odds. Eli read voraciously, finding solace in narratives of queer heroes who carved their own paths. He began to dream bigger, college, maybe even a career in writing. It was in that bookstore on a quiet Tuesday afternoon that Eli met Noah. Tall, with messy blonde hair and a smile that felt like sunlight, Noah wandered in looking for a poetry collection. Their hands brushed as Eli handed him a worn copy of Whitman, and something sparked. They talked for hours about books, dreams, and the weight of being different in a world that often demanded conformity. Noah, a college freshman studying art, had grown up in a liberal Chicago family, but he understood pain. His older brother had struggled with addiction, and Noah carried the quiet ache of loving someone who was lost. Their connection deepened over weeks. Coffee dates turned into late-night walks along Lake Michigan, where Eli shared fragments of his past. Noah listened without judgment, his presence a balm to wounds Eli hadn't realized still bled. "You're not what they said you were," Noah told him one night, his voice steady. "You're extraordinary." For the first time, Eli believed it might be true. But the past wasn't done with him. A letter arrived at the bookstore, forwarded from the youth center. The handwriting was his mother's, shaky and uncertain. "Your father's sick, Eli. He's asking for you." The words hit like a punch. Eli hadn't spoken to his family in 4 years, hadn't set foot in Willow Creek since that rainy night. The idea of returning stirred a storm of emotions. Anger, fear, and a flicker of hope he didn't want to name. Eli stared at the letter, Noah's hand resting gently on his shoulder. "You don't have to go," Noah said softly. "But if you do, I'm with you." Eli didn't know what he'd find in Willow Creek, but he knew one thing. He wasn't the scared boy who'd left. He was stronger now, shaped by struggle and love. Whatever waited, he'd face it head on. The bus ride back to Willow Creek felt like a descent into a past Eli had fought to leave behind. Each mile brought memories of that rain-soaked night, his father's voice thundering through the house, his mother's silence cutting deeper than words. Noah sat beside him, sketching in a worn notebook, his quiet presence an anchor against the storm brewing in Eli's chest. Willow Creek hadn't changed. The same white steeple pierced the sky, the same diner glowed with neon light. Eli's childhood home stood at the edge of town, its faded paint and sagging porch a mirror of his father's decline. Cancer, the letter had said. Terminal. Eli didn't know if he was there to forgive or confront, only that he couldn't run anymore. His mother opened the door, her face a map of grief and guilt. "Eli," she whispered, reaching for him, but he stiffened, the years of silence a wall between them. Noah squeezed his hand, a reminder he wasn't alone. Inside, the house smelled of antiseptic and memory. His father, James, lay in a hospital bed in the living room, a shadow of the man who'd once towered over Eli's world. His eyes, once sharp with judgment, were dulled by pain. "You came?" James rasped, his voice barely above a whisper. Eli nodded, words caught in his throat. He wanted to scream, to demand why his father had cast him out, why love had been a crime. But the frail man before him seemed a stranger, not the tyrant of his childhood. Noah stood quietly by the door, giving Eli space but never leaving his side. Over the next few days, Eli stayed in Willow Creek, sleeping in his old room, now a storage space for forgotten things. He and Noah helped his mother with small tasks, cooking, cleaning, fetching prescriptions. The town whispered, as it always had. Neighbors stared at Eli and Noah holding hands, their disapproval a familiar sting. But Eli was different now. He met their gazes, unashamed, his strength forged in Chicago's crucible. Conversations with his father were halting, fraught with unspoken history. James asked about Eli's life, his voice tinged with something like regret. Eli answered cautiously, sharing pieces of his journey. The bookstore, his studies, Noah. "He's good for you," James said one evening, surprising Eli. The words felt like a crack in the wall between them, but forgiveness was a mountain Eli wasn't ready to climb. Noah, ever patient, filled the silences with warmth. He sketched the Ohio countryside, capturing its stark beauty, and shared stories of his own dreams. To open an art gallery, to create something that mattered. One night, under a blanket of stars, Noah pulled Eli close. "You're doing this for you, not him," he said. "You're proving who you are." Eli nodded, tears burning his eyes. He wasn't just surviving anymore. He was reclaiming his story. But tension simmered beneath the surface. Eli's mother, Ellen, struggled to bridge the gap between her son and her husband. She apologized in whispers, her guilt palpable, but Eli needed more than words. He needed her to have fought for him back then. One afternoon, while Noah was out sketching, Ellen broke down. "I was scared, Eli. I didn't know how to stand up to him." Eli wanted to forgive her, but the hurt ran deep, a wound that time hadn't fully healed. As his father's condition worsened, Eli faced a choice: stay and confront the past, or leave and protect his heart. Noah's presence tipped the scales. "You're stronger than this place," he said, his voice fierce with belief. Eli decided to stay, not for his father, but for himself, to face the pain and emerge whole. The days ahead would test him, but with Noah by his side, he felt ready for whatever came next. The hospital bed creaked as James shifted, his breathing labored. Eli sat beside him, the room heavy with the weight of years unspoken. Noah was outside, giving them space, but his absence felt like a missing limb. Eli had come to rely on Noah's quiet strength, a tether to the person he'd become. "I was wrong," James said suddenly, his voice cracking. The words hung in the air, fragile and unexpected. Eli froze, unsure if he'd heard correctly. His father's eyes, clouded with pain, met his. "I thought I was protecting you. I thought I could fix you." The admission was a knife, cutting through years of anger. Eli wanted to rage, to ask how a father could think love needed fixing, but he held back, letting the silence speak. Instead, he asked why now. James coughed, his body trembling. "Seeing you strong, happy, it's not what I expected. Ilias diest it." He'd spent years proving he wasn't a disgrace, but hearing his father acknowledge it stirred a grief he hadn't anticipated. It wasn't just the loss of his childhood, it was the loss of what could have been. Outside, Noah sketched by the creek, his pencil capturing the willows that gave the town its name. When Eli joined him, the sight of Noah's calm focus steadied him. He apologized, Eli said, voice low. Noah set his sketchbook down, pulling Eli into a hug. "That's huge," he murmured. "But it's okay if you're not ready to forgive." Eli nodded, grateful for Noah's understanding. Forgiveness felt like a distant shore, and he wasn't sure he'd ever reach it. Life in Willow Creek settled into a strange rhythm. Eli and Noah became a quiet presence in the town, their love a subtle defiance against the stares. Ellen began to open up, sharing stories of her own regrets, her fear of losing both her husband and son. Eli listened, his heart softening, but trust was a slow rebuild. He and Noah took walks, finding solace in the fields and quiet streets, their conversations a lifeline. Noah spoke of his art, his dreams of a gallery that celebrated queer voices. Eli shared his own ambition, to write a memoir, to tell his story so others might feel less alone. But the past wasn't done resurfacing. One evening, a group of old high school classmates spotted Eli and Noah at the diner. Their sneers and whispered slurs were a reminder of why Eli had left. Noah, usually calm, stood up, his voice steady but sharp. "You don't get to judge us," he said, his hand firm in Eli's. The diner fell silent, and for the first time, Eli felt pride outweigh shame. They left, heads high, but the encounter left Eli shaken. Willow Creek still had claws. As James's health declined, Eli spent more time at his bedside. They talked, haltingly at first, about small things, baseball, old family trips. Slowly, the conversations deepened. James admitted his fear had driven him, fear of a world he didn't understand. Eli shared his journey, the hunger, the fear, the love that had saved him. James listened, tears in his eyes. "I'm proud of you," he said one night, the words a fragile bridge. Eli didn't know if he could cross it, but he felt the ground shift beneath him. Noah, ever the artist, began painting a mural on the side of the youth center, a vibrant tribute to resilience. Eli helped, their hands brushing as they worked, love woven into every stroke. The mural became a beacon, a sign that Willow Creek could change, even if slowly. Eli realized he wasn't just fighting for himself. He was fighting for every kid who felt like they didn't belong. James's final days were quiet, the house filled with the soft hum of medical equipment and the weight of impending loss. Eli sat by his father's side, reading aloud from a book of poetry Noah had given him. The words, full of longing and hope, felt like a bridge between them, fragile but real. James listened, his hand trembling as it reached for Eli's. "I'm sorry," he whispered again, and this time, Eli squeezed his hand back. It wasn't forgiveness, not fully, but it was a start. Ellen watched, her eyes bright with tears. She'd begun to change, speaking up when neighbors whispered, defending Eli and Noah with a fierceness she hadn't shown before. "I should have done this years ago," she told Eli one evening, her voice breaking. Eli hugged her, the first real embrace since he'd returned. The road to healing was long, but they were walking it together. Noah's mural was nearly complete, a riot of color that drew crowds to the youth center. Kids from the town, some openly queer, others just curious, came to watch. Eli saw himself in their wide eyes, their cautious hope. He and Noah spoke to them, sharing stories of survival and love. One boy, barely 13, confessed he was scared to tell his parents he was gay. Eli knelt beside him, voice steady. "You are enough, just as you are." The boy's tears mirrored Eli's own from years ago, but this time, Eli could offer hope. The town was changing, slowly. The diner incident had sparked conversations, and a few neighbors began to soften. A local pastor, once silent on such matters, invited Eli and Noah to speak at a community meeting. They shared their story, raw and unfiltered, and the room listened. Some faces stayed hard, but others nodded, moved. Eli realized he wasn't just reclaiming his past. He was reshaping Willow Creek's future. James passed on a quiet morning, the sun filtering through the curtains. Eli held his hand, Noah by his side, as the room grew still. Grief came in waves, not just for the man James had been, but for the father he could have been. At the funeral, Eli spoke, his voice steady despite the ache. He talked of love, of resilience, of second chances. Noah stood beside him, a quiet pillar, as the town looked on, some with tears, others with new understanding. After the funeral, Eli and Noah stayed in Willow Creek, helping Ellen sort through James's things. They found old photos, letters, a life before the anger. In one photo, a young Eli grinned beside his father, fishing poles in hand. Eli kept it, a reminder of what was lost and what could still be built. He and Noah planned to return to Chicago, but Willow Creek would always be part of him. A place of pain, yes, but also of growth. Eli began writing his memoir, the words flowing like a river. Noah read each page, offering gentle feedback, his love a constant. They dreamed of a future together, a home, a gallery, a life where they could be unapologetically themselves. Eli knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but he was ready. He'd face the worst and come out stronger, with Noah by his side and a story to tell. Back in Chicago, Eli and Noah settled into a small apartment, a cozy space filled with books, sketches, and the warmth of their shared dreams. Eli's memoir took shape, each chapter a testament to survival and love. He wrote of Willow Creek, of his father's rejection and redemption, of Noah's unwavering support. The words were raw, honest, a beacon for others navigating their own storms. Noah's gallery opened in Wicker Park, a vibrant space showcasing queer artists. The mural from Willow Creek inspired its centerpiece, a massive canvas of hope and resilience. Eli stood beside Noah at the opening, pride swelling in his chest as strangers admired the work. Their love, once a quiet rebellion, was now a public celebration, a testament to what they'd built together. Eli's memoir found a publisher, a small press dedicated to marginalized voices. When it hit shelves, it resonated, reaching kids like the boy from the youth center, giving them courage. Eli and Noah traveled to small towns like Willow Creek, speaking at libraries and community centers, their story sparking change. Ellen joined them sometimes, her presence a quiet apology, a commitment to do better. She'd started a support group for parents of queer kids, a small but vital step. One evening, Eli and Noah returned to the cliff from the image prompt, the California coast stretching before them. They'd come for a speaking event, but this moment was theirs. The sun dipped low, painting the sky in hues of gold and pink. Eli took Noah's hand, the same hand that had steadied him through every storm. "I love you," he said, voice thick with emotion. Noah smiled, pulling him close. "I love you too. Always." The memoir's success brought Eli back to Willow Creek one last time, for a book signing at the youth center. The town had changed, slowly, imperfectly, but undeniably. Kids who'd once hidden their truths now stood tall, inspired by Eli's story. The pastor who'd invited them to speak was there, clapping proudly. Even the diner's neon sign seemed to glow softer, as if the town itself was learning to heal. Eli looked at the crowd, at Noah's proud smile, at his mother's tearful eyes, and felt a weight lift. He'd been kicked out at 14, told he was a disgrace, but he'd returned stronger, shocking them all. Not with anger, but with love, resilience, and a story that mattered. His father's words no longer defined him. His own did. As they drove back to Chicago, Eli rested his head on Noah's shoulder, the road stretching ahead like a promise. He'd faced his past, reclaimed his worth, and found a love that made every struggle worthwhile. The world wasn't perfect, but it was theirs, and they'd keep fighting for a place where every kid could be themselves, unashamed and unafraid.